and welcome. My name is Brett Babineau. I am the president-elect of the Louisiana Music Educators Association, and I'm also the professional development coordinator. And we here have our latest session of our 12 for 12 webinar series. We have an unbelievable session here for you, telling unbelievable stories. And our moderator, Dr. Tim, is going to share and introduce our panelists later. But I want to let you in on a little bit of what our 12 for 12 series is about. We are putting this out there for timely and relevant sessions that we want all educators, not just music educators, all educators, all students to have an opportunity to hear these wonderful stories. We want to equip you, we want to motivate, inspire, and we want this to be educational. So without further ado, I do want to introduce, well, he doesn't really need an introduction, but this is Dr. Tim Lautzenheiser will be our moderator for this session. Dr. Tim is the Vice President of the Education Division of Conn-Selmer. He is obviously moderator. He is an educator. He is a consultant. He is a motivator. He inspires. Most importantly, he is a great, great friend. Dr. Tim, thank you. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Brett, and congratulations on putting this together. And to all of you who are watching, this is a treasure. And once we get into it, you're going to understand this. I am not going to say a whole lot because I want you to be with these people. And we're going to start with Evelyn Glennie. Again, somebody who does not need an introduction. She's a world-renowned performer, speaker, writer, lecturer, consultant, and an advocate for music education that has gotten the government over there to part with a lot of revenue to support it. It would be easier with Evelyn to tell you what she hasn't done than to tell you all the things that she has done. And you must go to her TED Talk, How to Truly Listen, and hang on for dear life. Her story is an inspiration for all, and she's a fellow percussionist, which is even better. Evelyn, tell us what is going on in Cambridge.
Well, thank you for such an interesting introduction there, and it's a pleasure to be part of this discussion. Yes, can you believe there's no rain here in Cambridgeshire at the moment in England, but there we are. But no, I'm actually Scottish. I was brought up on a farm in the northeast of Scotland, and really my whole musical beginning started with Scottish traditional music. And of course, it was in the days whereby music actually happened within the home, face to face, you know, with the raw hand, the raw voice, and all of that kind of thing. And you know, the wonderful thing about traditional music often is that it is handed over by ear. And so there's a type of listening that happens. I don't just mean hearing the song or the words or something, but there's an attentiveness to how that song or words are interpreted and remembered in a way. So, and that was really how I started. I mean, I'm a farmer's daughter, but when we had relatives round, someone in the house could play a traditional piece on the piano or on the fiddle or on the accordion. And most homes had an upright piano, can you believe? I mean, it's extraordinary, but it's true. And this was a farming community. And I went to a tiny, tiny primary school that only had about 37 pupils in the entire school. So each Friday, the whole school would be given a general music lesson. So by the time we all left that school at the age of 11, 12 years old, we could all read music and we had an appreciation towards music. But I think what was interesting about that was that sometimes the music teacher would ask the older pupils, so the 10, 11, 12-year-olds, to take care of some of the younger pupils whilst she might have been dealing with another group of pupils. And this kind of element of responsibility meant that she had to trust the older pupils in understanding what it was that she was asking for them to work with as regards to the younger ones. And I think that's a really interesting thing. You know, we always think of education where we're feeding our youngsters, you know, with something for them to remember or to participate in, or experience, but actually we're also asking them to be their own teachers, their own thinkers, their own decision makers, their own sort of just thinking about their own journey and their understanding towards a subject. So this was one way of doing that, and you could do that with such a tiny school, of course. And so by the time I left that school, going on to secondary school, a much bigger school, the ethos of that school was that every child has a story to tell. And this has really been, I think, the trunk of my particular journey, because when you realize that every single person, let alone a child, has a story to tell, you're ready to listen. You know, you want to know what that story is. And it doesn't become a statistic or a number or get soaked up in a system or a method or anything like that. And it meant that this school was kitted out with wheelchair ramps. It was kitted out with colour schemes suitable for sight-impaired kids. It had rooms and areas suitable for hearing-impaired kids like myself. But this was a school, a normal kind of comprehensive school, secondary school, but the ethos was that it catered for all children in that community. And so it wasn't looking at a child in a wheelchair thinking, oh, well, sorry, you can't come to this school because this is for normal kids or something. This was completely and utterly open to all kids, and all children belong to all departments of the school. So if you are deaf like myself, I belong to the music department. If you happen to be sight impaired, you belong to the art department. If you happen to be in a wheelchair or had some physical challenge, you belong to the sporting department. So it was very much a can-do and a shared experience, you know, right across the board. And that was important. So for me, inclusion and accessibility has been absolutely key to my particular growth, and I don't know any better than that, frankly. You know, that's what I was brought up with, and that's what I knew as a kid, and it didn't have to be explained to me. It didn't have to be a lecture or anything like that. This was something that was quite normal, and I think that this is what drives me going forward, you know, is this belief that, well, it's not even a belief, it's absolute knowledge that we all have have something to say, really. So,
Evelyn, the majority of people that are watching this are teachers, are music teachers. And the fascinating story you have about when you went into higher education and their reaction that, is she going to be able to do this? Could you just touch on that a little bit?
Well, I started timpani and percussion from the age of 12 at secondary school, and I had a very, very good peripatetic teacher, and he saw all of his pupils as sound creators first and foremost, then musicians, and then instrumentalists. And normally when you start an instrument, well, you're a percussionist or you're a violinist, or you become the object, actually. But in his case, the object was a tool, you know, just as you go into a kitchen and you've got all of your ingredients there, but you don't become the fish or the carrot or the aubergine or the pepper or whatever it is. You bring all of those ingredients and then you become the meal. And, you know, that's where your voice is. And so this idea of all his pupils being a sound creator meant that there's a big difference between asking someone to feel what something sounds like as opposed to hear what something sounds like. So my story was, as a farmer's daughter, he asked me, what is the feel? Can you create the feel of a tractor coming through a snare drum as opposed to the sound of a tractor? Now, a feel of something, you have to just kind of slow the body down, think about it and think, oh, well, decide what sort of tractor do I want, you know. So do I want a tractor that's an old rickety thing, or a really brand new tractor, or a tractor with the engine off and it's stationary?
Wow.
That can be the sound of a tractor, you know. And basically this meant that I had the freedom to explore my sound, my journey, and how that related to me in my circumstances. And when I auditioned for the Royal Academy of Music, once I decided to get onto your question, once I decided to pursue music as a full-time career, basically I had this very strong urge to be a solo percussionist, because at school we gave little solos in our school concerts and community concerts. So this was quite normal, and I thought the world was full of solo percussionists. So basically, when they said, well, first of all, no orchestra will employ a deaf musician, and secondly, what are you on about with solo percussion? It doesn't exist on a full-time basis. And I said, well, first of all, I don't want to be in an orchestra. That is not where my vision is. I don't want to be a member of an orchestra. And secondly, solo percussion already exists because I've been doing it 4 years at my secondary school. So, you know, and what they asked me to do, I did a first edition, and I was of the level to get in, and they said that. However, they felt that the industry would not accept a deaf musician. So they asked me to re-audition, but this time with a completely unprepared audition. So it had nothing to do with percussion playing. This was all to do with being given a score, who might have written it, why do you think that, composition, sight reading, score reading, figure bass, all sorts of things like that. It was all done at the keyboard because obviously I could play the piano. And so this was general musicianship. However, this was really an extension of what I was already doing at school, because don't forget, when my teacher saw us as sound creators, that means that you are getting into a composer and finding out about their sound world. You are thinking, what was the timeline when Beethoven wrote his fifth symphony or something? What was the timeline of Stravinsky's Rite of Spring? What was going on in China? What was going on in Africa? What was going on in South America? What was going on in North America, Canada, you name it. So it isn't just isolated to that one thing. And suddenly, you know, music becomes a fascinating, you know, experience that takes you all around the world. I mean, it really, really does. Yes. And so that to me, well, anyway, they let me in, and I basically obviously had to follow the orchestral side of playing, because that's what the establishments in those days, in the 80s, did. And so all of the solo percussion I had to do by myself. But with that, and when I think about the word solo, I don't mean only just when you pick your sticks or mallets up and you are the only percussionist playing at that time. I mean solo as regards to how you function as a percussion player, as a solo percussion player. What are the logistics? You know, what do you do in order to promote the repertoire, in order to promote the music that you're playing, the passion that you have through your instruments and so on. There's all sorts of things that go beyond, again, that piece of music.
Do you, again, because we have teachers watching this, every child is a musician, yes? And every child can make music.
Well,
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, I would say every child is a great improviser.
Yes.
I mean, they're the most natural improvisers on the planet. And I think improvisation, I feel, is a key ingredient in order for people to build confidence, to continue with that curiosity, to walk on that tightrope, not knowing whether something's going to work or not, you know, not knowing what's round the corner, and always keeping that curious kind of eye and ear. And improvisation, I feel, is key. And so often with educational books, we see, you know, charts that maybe has scales, you know, have you practiced your scales, and maybe sight reading or exercises or a piece of music. Rarely do we see improvisation on there. And improvisation has been the one element that certainly has kept me buoyant as that curious musician and sound creator. I think it's something that we're born with. For some reason, it's then kind of cast aside because of rules and regulations. Yes. Of course, there has to be structure. Of course, there has to be. But it's somehow in everything we do, there can be that element of curiosity. We see it in dance, we see it in visual art more than we do with music. It's kind of confined to, well, if you're a folk musician, a jazz musician, or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Our great classical musicians and composers were great improvisers.
Well, I think that when you said that the structure sometimes becomes a confinement, it keeps you from improvising. Like you're not good, you should just stay within this realm. Watching you, and again, since I'm a percussionist, I watched carefully when you performed. You didn't play the music, you were the music. Does that make sense?
Well, you see, it goes back to the percussion teacher again, and this whole approach, because it's a story, and it's not me creating a story from someone else. I can't be somebody else's story.
Right.
I have to draw upon my own experiences. I can't read something in a book and suddenly become an expert in that subject by reading somebody else's words in a book. I can be more informed, I can be more knowledgeable, but the experience is the absolute key. And the experience that we give our young people with their instruments, where we might be asking them to read something, learn something, and so on, it's always from something, as opposed to what is it inside of that person that we as teachers can draw out of that through their instrument, rather than feeding all of the time. It's getting that balance, really, and it can be really fascinating. And I mean, a lot of the consultations that I'm asked to do are sometimes for non-percussion players. I had one not so long ago from a mother who wrote to us, and she said, oh, my daughter plays the violin, she's 11 years old, and I just feel as though she's losing interest. Because so much of it has been exam based. She's always working towards something that's going to be judged, or marked or whatever. And she was just getting down about this, and everything seemed to be quite pressured in a way. And so our session was literally sort of taking, obviously, the pieces that she knew how to play, but completely and utterly dissecting them, so that improvisation with a capital I was the absolute key. And at the end of the session, she was laughing at some of the phrases, and she was sort of doing wild and wacky things with these phrases, that once she did then return to the piece in a more kind of, normal way, there were so many differences in her interpretation, and so many differences in her sound colors, so many more chances there. And the identity was much more her, rather than I am playing the violin of this particular piece of music, and I really hope I don't make a boo-boo. This was much more, whoa, this is my piece. This is this is my piece. This is my sound. This piece belongs to me, and I have this relationship with the piece.
Yes.
So it's getting to that kind of level, really.
Can I come and take a lesson? Is that possible?
No, I mean, the funny thing is that, it's so important for these types of sessions, because we can share things with each other, and this is what technology has allowed us to do, and I think that every day is a lesson in something or another, if we've got our antennae, kind of working for us, and we're really swiveling 360 degrees, and not just looking at what's on our device down there, and walking along, but really, the inspiration can really sometimes just be right there. A word that somebody has said, how it's said, something that you just see outside the window there, just for a split second. It can be anything, and I think COVID has highlighted what is right under our noses. Everything's become magnified, and the chatter we have within ourselves has become magnified, and we're listening. We're listening much closer to hand in order to figure out what is it that we're doing? How are we doing this? Why is this important? What does this mean? You know, this is what orchestras are doing at the moment in their communities. You know, well, what is our relevance? You know, and we're able now to start kind of laying a landscape that is much more kind of, right, you know, we're paying attention now.
You know, did you, I mean, you're a luminary, you're an icon. And when you were growing up and going through this, did you ever think you would be doing what you're doing now?
No, not growing up by any means. I mean, I thought I'd be doing something with animals, being a farmer's daughter, and I absolutely love animals, and I wish I had the time to have a small croft and with a few you know, things moving around, and but I really thought I'd do something with animals, not be a vet, because I don't have that capacity, you know, I just don't have that kind of mind or intellect about me, but you know, whether training animals or something to do with animals, but you know, no matter what industry we're in, it's really, I think, glued with listening. It really is. And you know, one industry is not that different from another when we really kind of find out what those links are. I'm a musician and I'm in the music business. So my business is music, you know, and playing percussion is part of that. It's part of it. It isn't all of it. So I don't wake up in the morning thinking, yes, so the next 10 hours will be playing percussion. You know, a tiny percentage of that time will be spent playing on my instruments. So with all of the other aspects of being a musician involves technology, it involves business, it involves well-being, all of this kind of thing. It involves technology, it involves all sorts of things, it involves finance. So many different industries are involved in what we do.
I was glad to hear you say that about animals. There's a purity in animals. It's just pure truth.
Oh my goodness me, you know, I sometimes, I do have a cat, and I sometimes look at her, well, I often look at her, obviously, and I just see how she moves and how everything is speaking with each other. Oh, her legs are so, you know, speaking with each other, and you'll understand as percussionists and any instrumentalists will know that we need everything that we do speaking with each other. We can't just have a great right hand if the left hand is a bit iffy, or vice versa, you know, or if the left foot is a bit kind of, you know, lazy. But, you know, if we have that kind of capacity, everything needs to be speaking together, and we have to be true to ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. What can we expect from Evelyn Glennie in the future? What have you got in the days, months, years ahead?
Well, one of the things I've been working on for a long time, but over the past 5 years, I've had up to 4 volunteers working on the Evelyn Glennie collection. And this basically is bringing all aspects of what we've been doing since the year dot together. So that means collecting and documenting everything from all of the music scores to the instruments is my job, to photographs, to clothes, to paper cuttings, to magazines, to concert tickets, to correspondence, you name it, to all of the audio files, the visual files, and so on. So a huge kind of collection, and so there'll be a lot of years worth in that still to do, and obviously it's still a living collection because it's being added to. And then I'm just in the process of forming the Evelyn Glennie Foundation, and this is something that I you know, feel quite passionate about. The crux being listening and really bringing different disciplines together, and you know, what is listening in the medical profession and the sporting profession and business, finance, music, entertainment, arts, you name it. And you know, we've seen listening change in education over the past 18 months, you know, as so many classes have been done virtually. We've seen how we you know, connect with the medical profession. So much of it is virtual. If we want to see the doctor or something, so much of it is virtual now.
Yes.
And you know, one of the concerts I have coming up in later in the year is with the World Doctors Orchestra, and there is such a thing. And believe it or not, you know, they were talking about how their listening has really changed when they're trying to assess a patient, whereby they're in a little box as we are virtually, they're flat on a screen, and they're not seeing that patient walk in the room. And, you know, absolutely tactile, just little information that they pick up, you know, that we don't know that they're observing. And so now they've got to kind of just see half a body and try and make some sort of assessment with how that person explains what they're feeling. So there's all sorts of things that have changed that affect our listening. And we have to be aware of that. We have to be aware that some young people learn well virtually and some don't. Some need that face-to-face connection. And it's really understanding how that affects them, and just trying to create that supportive kind of base in order to connect and to understand and have the patience to support them as much as possible.
Well, the wonderful thing about this interview is you are phenomenal. Your personality is just, it jumps off the screen. The downside is it has to come to an end. So we got to put a repeat sign on this somewhere. As we finish up, Evelyn, you know, because we have been through the pandemic and teachers certainly have been pushed to the very edge and even over the edge. Any last thoughts of inspiration you'd like to share with our audience?
Well, I think that, you know, the teachers, I feel, have been unbelievable, because, you know, we need, you know, teachers need to be inspired too. You know, it doesn't just fall from trees somewhere and magically they're inspired 24/7, 365. It's an incredible thing, and they have had to adapt unbelievably, and everybody's been shaken by this COVID, thrown up in the air, and we've all landed, and we're kind of seeing where we've landed and think, okay, right, and almost brush ourselves off and try and see what we can do to often salvage a situation. And I honestly don't know what to say to them, but what they do, you know, can change the world. It can change a person's landscape, and we have to support our teachers as much as we possibly can, you know, by giving them the tools they need, by giving them that, you know, the structure, the investment, everything they need in order to be able to make the future generations be inspired and grow and make society a better place. So I cannot thank the teachers enough for what they've been doing, always, but particularly this past year and a half.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yes, they can change the world. There's no question about that. And you've proven that one person makes a difference. Because you
absolutely. And when I think of my own, the teachers I experienced at school, you know, hardly a day goes by, I have to say, whereby I'm not thinking about a teacher somewhere along the line. It's true, you know, it's really true that, and it's a funny kind of thing, but you sort of notice it much later on, you know, you really do. And it's, I can't explain it, but the power of a teacher can absolutely change a landscape.
Well, there's no question about that. And music teachers in particular, none of us watching this would be here if it hadn't been for a music teacher.
Exactly. Exactly. Music teachers, exactly. And getting the communities, you know, involved as much as possible. I mean, in this country at the moment, it's an awful lot of the charitable organizations, the various clubs of this and that, who are kind of keeping the music buoyant at the moment. You know, they really are. If they didn't exist, goodness knows where would be, because music is very patchy in our schools at the moment, and it's such a shame to see that, especially when you've experienced, as in my case, every school with an orchestra, every school with a band, you know, every school with something that people could participate in, and not just the pupils, but the staff as well. And, you know, I can remember my history teacher being a French horn player. I can remember my maths teacher being a pianist. I can remember another history teacher actually being an oboist. I can remember a science teacher who was a bassoonist. You know, I remember these, and they were all part of the orchestra with us kids, you know. And suddenly I saw my maths teacher in a very different light than when I saw him in the maths room, you know, in the classroom. And teachers see pupils in a different way, you know, in different environments, and this is all healthy, really.
Yeah. Maybe we'll see the day when every child has music every day in school, as you did. It's great. Evelyn, thank you so much for your time. Just a quick question. Can we do this again someday?
Oh, of course we can. That's a date.
You're a love. You're a love. Thank you. And for all of us, my guys, we want to go back and watch this again and again and again. We have a PhD curriculum in the last half hour of being with this magnificent musician, teacher, woman, as I said, icon. Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow. Our next guest is, we're going to take a huge turn in this one, Arn-Chorn Pond. Right now he's in Cambodia. He's online in Cambodia. He's an advocate for the healing and the transformative power of the arts, which you will hear. If you know your history, he was part of the Khmer Rouge, the killing fields, as a child. And he managed to get out, even though many of his family who were artists did not. He's a human rights activist, and is now spending a lot of time reviving the traditional music of Cambodia. He is the source for Cambodian Living Arts. And again, there's another TED Talk out there that you will absolutely want to see. And might I remind you, when you watch this one, to bring a box of tissue with you, because in the end, if you're not weeping, you don't have any heart. So Arn, tell us what is going on the other side of the world, my friend.
We are, like everyone else, coping with the spread, the outbreak in the community of the COVID-19. I'm sorry to say it now, but we are also lucky to have the people who are infected or died death lower than my country in America.
Yes.
Like in our country there in America. So my heart is there too in America. I hope it gets better for us there too. Yeah. And thank you for having me here on the show.
Oh, thank you, my guy.
On the talk, not show, I don't know.
No, it may end up getting an academy. Can you share a little bit about your childhood and what you went through at the Khmer Rouge and so forth, for those that aren't familiar with it?
I was a child. I mean, the Khmer Rouge took over in 1975, and I was about 12 years old. And I was taken into a Buddhist temple, converted into a killing place, day in and day out. They kill everybody. And we were not prisoners, but we were children forced to live there, to work there, and to die there. And in the middle of that, those killing, I remembered music. Really, I was forced into by the Khmer Rouge with the group of children during the killing all around us. Music, I should say, literally, physically saved my life during those killing, during the Khmer Rouge reign. during the temple, that area, starting from 1975. They forced me to play their revolutionary song on a traditional Khmer instrument called the kim. It's like a hammer dulcimer. That's how I started it. And with the master, one master came and they forced him to teach a few boys those instruments, their revolutionary song, No Love Song. So the master, one of the masters said, the first master, I didn't even know his name, you know, white-haired guy, and he knew. He said, you better learn fast. So a few weeks, they took him with few other boys who did not learn fast enough. Only 2 of us survived, and we knew that they ended up in the mango grove. So we know that why the teacher warned us about learning fast. And only 2 boys, I was a number 1. I learned faster than anyone else, and I didn't know why. I learned for my life, you know, a revolutionary song. It was like very fast song, and the meaning, mostly the meaning of the song were like glorifying, killing, blood, you know, hating Americans, you know. I didn't even know who American was, but, you know, were just a name, and all hate in their lyrics. And then in the midst of that darkness, you know, music helped me. Literally, you know, when they have me sometimes to practice, you know, I literally escaped the hell I was living in. You know, the smell of the blood, the shits combines, and the screaming of the people outside, where the Khmer Rouge escorted, or they realized that the Khmer Rouge will take their liver away, the spleen away, the hit. You know, the Khmer Rouge usually hit people in the back of the axe, in the back of the head. So they were screaming all over every day. So I literally could not take it, but, you know, anymore psychologically. So it helped me. Music helped me to escape into from the hell to another world. And you know, mentally, it helps me a lot too, from that bad dream and from the horrific punishment that I saw, what they have done all the year. And, you know, it is like a psychology for me to play music, helped me to feel the release of from these horrible things that I was witnessing.
So it was an escape, a way to be safe in your own mind, the music was.
Literally, I did not smell anymore blood at that moment.
Yeah.
When the sound of that instrument, it's like hitting the string. After a while, when you hit it, I can close my eye doing it. There were many string, and I couldn't even literally see the string because I was starving, half starved. So the children there, only 3 or 4 years, 700 of us were forced to live and die there. There were only 60 probably left that 3 years in that camp. We were not prisoners at all, but they were killed. Some were killed by the Khmer Rouge because they could not work anymore. They were weakened. I was giving more food, a little more food than others, because I was becoming their musicians. And then they brought the other masters, Master Mac, and we became really close. That, you know, Master Mac lied to them that I need more time. I didn't know that, and until later on I found out, and I lied to the Khmer Rouge that Master Mac, not yet, I cannot learn all of that yet, so I need him more time. So I knew they were after him, just like my first master. But this one, the second master, we became like father and son, you know, we became really close.
Is that how you got to America? What was that the link to get you to the United States?
No, which one? But Master Mac, he was Cambodian. He was still in the camp in Cambodia, in that temple. He was still there. But that 4 years came to an end with the Vietnamese invaded Cambodia and ousted the Khmer Rouge. So it was 1979. And then I was caught by the Khmer Rouge, like thousands of other children. The Khmer Rouge took my instruments away. They gave me guns, like thousands of other kids. I couldn't almost carry the guns into a battlefield. We have to figure out how to use the guns ourselves. When we were not taught how to use the guns. I was lucky also to survive there, a full-blown war with, you know, and I escaped sometime into the jungles of Cambodia. We walked between where I live now to directed to the border of Thailand. It was about, you know, 300 miles, zigzagging for almost a year. I feel like forever. No shoes, and sometimes I escape into the jungle by myself, following monkey for food, and then ended up in the Thai border. I was probably blown away by a typhoid or malaria or by landmines, I don't remember, into the other side of the clearing of the jungle. And then I first time heard human being talk. They were talking in different language. And I never knew that they were Thailand or anything like that. I thought the world was flat. I was put into a camp where, a refugee camp where I met a white man. They call him Americans. So for the first time, I heard the word American all along by the Khmer Rouge. They hate Americans. I didn't know why either. So I was scared to first encounter one American man, white-haired guy. He was just like Master Mac, you know, my old master, but he looks different because he looked whiter and with long nose. And there he was. He picked me up because I was about to drown in the rainy season, and among many kids. He stepped on me literally. My dad, Peter, he weighed like 300 pounds. You know, I was about, they weighed me, I was about 30 pounds. I was skin and bones. And he picked me up, and there it was, like every morning he would come back to the camp and trying to feed me. And I saw him crying, and he kept pointing somewhere, I don't know, maybe trying to bring me to somewhere. So we could not talk. So that Peter became my adopted father later on. He brought me to America in the 1980s.
How long were you in America before you went back to Cambodia?
I was here in 1980. I arrived in New Hampshire in the fall of 1980. And the next day he took me to the mall. And the next week he took me to the high school. You know, I never been to school before. I went to the temple. I lived in the temple before the Khmer Rouge for a year. So I was only 12 or 13. And there I was in high school and in 9th grade. And I felt strange, you know, seeing the American kids on the hallway. And I was outnumbered. I feel I was outnumbered. I've never seen so many white kids before in my life. And I was, you know, so, and they were starting to hit my head, you know, because they didn't know in Cambodia, you're not allowed to hit the head. Culturally, they said that the Buddha is here. Your parent lives in your head. Don't ever have anybody hit your head. So American kid was like, they play in the hallway, they come and laugh at me, and I was stunned. So, you know, they were stunned. I was also surprised standing in the hallway. They come right away, they hit my head, and they start making fun of me and, you know, calling me names. And I heard the word monkey, and they had no idea where I just came from. Mm-hmm. They've never seen an Asian before. There were no Black or Asian or any other races in that school. White Mount Regional High School, it was only white kids. So they didn't know where I came from. Probably they thought I was from the sky or something. So, so I had a lot of trouble adjusting to the high school. We had a lot of fights, and I began to feel very depressed, and contemplating, and feeling suicidal. And I escaped the school. I broke the school windows. We had a lot of fights, because there's something they shouldn't do it to me. You know, in my country, I would shoot them. In Cambodia, I would have a guns and shoot them. I was thinking about buying guns, but you know, in New Hampshire, the closest store to your home is like 15 miles away. I run away, and I was again into the jungle of New Hampshire. This time not in Cambodia. Peter knew that I probably will freeze to death if he doesn't do anything to tell the school what really happened to me and to Cambodia. And he's really, I've never seen him cry so hard when he looked at me one day. He said, "You must talk to this church, to this American children. They had no idea where you just came from, and you must talk to them." And I didn't speak the language, you see. So I knew what he meant, and I knew how serious he was. He told me, he said, you know, I can hear a few words, I can understand a few words. He said, you survived the jungle of Cambodia, but you will not survive the jungle probably in New Hampshire in the USA. And I knew he meant it. Yeah. And he said, if you die here, we all gonna die. I'm going to die because I'm your father. And we all a family now. And we're gonna die together if you die. Wow. So I knew how serious it was, and word by word, I have to learn the language. And for the first time, I was willing to share with American kid and start playing. You know, easier now. I picked up the flute. You know, in America, so I started for the first time playing music. That helped me a lot to release my stress, but also, you know, it helps to American kids, like Evelyn said, you know, they really, when they feel something, you know, the children are very pure and innocent. They felt it, and the story is second from you know, the story is just few words. I came from Cambodia and my family died, and you know, I asked for their understanding, right, to accept me there, because I couldn't even learn how to go to the bathroom properly. You know, I was afraid of that the bathroom would suck me inside. You know, I don't know how to use the bathroom properly. You know, I would pee out of my windows, and my American mom went crazy, you know, and I can't eat hamburgers like them. You know, I need rice, but there were no rice around. And all of that, you know, it just tough for all of us, and I'd rather die. Yeah. Especially the understanding why they don't accept me. That's something I don't understand. But I think music and sharing the story helps so much. And when they start, these young people doesn't take much. And I thought they didn't care. In the beginning, I told myself, I said they didn't care. They are having fun going out. They are always in the mall. They are always kissing. They don't care about. They don't care about where you came from and what happened to your life, to Cambodia. They didn't even know where Cambodia is. That's what I was thinking. But I was wrong, really, when I began to start sharing my life and playing my music, especially playing my flute in my love song, a lullaby to them. You know, when the Titanic came out, the movie Titanic, they thought I was playing Irish flute, you know, but it was all right. But many of them cried when I play my flute. So something touched them deep. Right. Music, I began to understand when they connect music, you know, to some other music, that they really hit it hard in their lives, they reach out to you. That's the first connection. I connect to those kids, and everything else. Peter was right that they somehow he knew that it was hard for me to do,
right?
But I must, otherwise I die. I will die in America. So that's what I did in America.
It's interesting in both cases, the Khmer Rouge and in America, music saved you. Music was your answer.
I didn't think about it until you said it, and yes,
yeah,
yes,
so,
once and twice,
yeah.
And it will be for probably a long time. I mentioned to you before this that I'm now back to Cambodia, and I'm really happy now not to speak so much, but I play music for children now around the country in a remote area around the country where they've never heard live music before or touch any instruments in their lives. And so many adults also who now 50 years, they said, I never thought I could hear the music live before I died, you know. They remembered their weddings, they remembered their, you know, so this, how powerful the music is. I'm currently realize that I'm doing it. It helps me too.
Yes.
And why I wanted to do so much. Now I found out why my members of my family, my dad and my mom, loves what they did.
Yes.
There were no money at all. Yeah. Why? I wonder why they were killed because what they did. Yeah. And 90%. I found out in Cambodia when I returned, as soon as I returned, I found Master Mac, my teacher, my second teacher, survived after 23 years. And he recognized me right away. and he said, Arn, you must start something for me to teach my skill. I don't want to die a drunk. You know, he was drunk on the street. Nobody knew them. A few masters survived the Khmer Rouge. They were a household name. Nobody knows them, and nothing they do. They were on the street drunk. And so that's why I had idea of starting something, an organization to pass down the art and our art and the culture to the next generation, and to find meanings in my master's life and my family's life. And then, you know, through music, I found out the whole thing about my family, why they love, how they met, you know, my mom and my dad, how they met, I never knew. So something in the past through music that helped me to figure out where I came from. And that's very important, you know.
Yeah, was that the impetus, the start of the Cambodian Living Arts program that you started?
Yeah, yes. I found few more masters, you know. I found a woman, also a woman. I remembered her name before the Khmer Rouge, a squeaky voice on the radio. Every morning when I wake up for my ice cream in the morning, she would be on the radio. And then I heard word by mouth that she was still alive. And it took me a year after I came back from America 3 or 4 times now, and trying to find her in the capital. Finally, I found her on the dirt road, and she was most of them drunk, and something about alcohol. But the artists, they rather die drinking if they cannot teach. You know, they cannot find way to pass on or anything like that. That's what I found out. And I said, Master Mac and Master Jake Mike. She said, yes. How do you know my name? They were still disoriented. They didn't know that the Khmer Rouge era end. You know, they were afraid. They say, how do you know my name? So I said, you know, I heard your name on the radio, and you are like my idol. I told them, can you still sing? He said, yes, I still sing. So, you know, how much you want to give me? She asked for a can of beer before she sang, can of beer and a sandwich. She said it in English very clear, a sandwich. I brought her a sandwich and a beer. It was a really bad combination. And after she drank the beer and she got so, you know, temperature high, fever. So I ended up taking her to the hospital. She was like a household name, and 3 or 4 more men who had played master, who had played for the king and for the elite politician from other country in my country, you know, and they were still alive. When I met some of them and found out that 90% from, you know, artists died during the Khmer Rouge, I must start something. So Cambodian Living Arts, you know, matching these masters, it was a initial beginning, you know, a quick fix, you know, to try to take care of the masters and matching them with the student before some of them you know, starting to getting so sick and died, you know, one by one. They became like my family, my new family. You know, it's hard for me to witness that come back. Now we have like 20 years later. Now we have we have the whole new generation now learning traditional music, dance, you know, across the board. We have now. I couldn't keep track on it. We have now scholarship, fellowships. Now we have, you know, one of the scholarship, you know, a name after me, and the board did that, not me. So trying to honor me by having the scholarship on my name, and now we have children now express themselves. You know, Cambodia changed now, and we have to change with that. You know. So young people said, we learn our tradition. Now we need to express ourselves. So we are encouraging them to learn how to create new work and innovating new works so they can express themselves to the world, you know, in their own time. And now we have art in school for the first time. We help to, you know, nationally, we help to train teachers now and all that. So Cambodian Living Arts now, it's pretty big organization now, you know, helping, using music to connect and to, you know, find out the past, you know, to connect young people now to the past like I did, and the power of the art that we are using to heal myself, to heal the young people, and to find out our history, our own culture, to be proud of who we are. Very important. You know, like the young people I told you I work with in Lowell, Massachusetts, the gang members in Lowell, where the 2nd largest Cambodian refugee resettle, you know, after Long Beach, California. Those, you know, identity crisis of those young Cambodian, young Asian, young Haitian, young Black who, you know, like caught in the middle, they don't know who they are, you know, like identity crisis, you know, like I felt earlier year in America. I was making fun of on the top of that and chased out of being, you know, go back where you belong, all of that. And I asked myself, who am I? Who am I belong to? Where am I belong to? So those are kind of questions that young people all around the world are still confused and were forced to be in army, you know, you name it. Many girls are forced into different, you know, victims of war and all that, prostitution, and very confusion kind of world. Not only Cambodian, I'm saying it now, I'm beyond Cambodia now. So the arts can help us, can mold us, you know, together and build confidence in us before anything else, before we can go for the future. Yes. So what Evelyn was saying, you know, we need to help supporting the teachers that are still alive everywhere around the world, and their sweat, and they make very little money. And, you know, even the Khmer Rouge know how important you know, the worst group that kill, you know, the worst genocide in the world. They know they know how important, how powerful the arts, the music was. That was why they forced me as a child to brainwash me and to use music to to brainwash other people. You know, even the Khmer Rouge know how powerful music were, and they kill many of the masters because people listen to music. They don't judge. You know, they come together. Music bring people together, not killing them. You know, not like the bomb. The bomb disembowel people. You know, explode people and people run away. But music bring people to come together and make them understand each other, you know, and smile and dance. And eventually they learn about each other and they learn how to connect in the human levels. You know, that's, I think, it's powerful.
Absolutely. Arn, your story is compelling. Your story is brings so many emotions, and both you and Evelyn, magnificent. It still comes back to the music can bring the world together. Music can make us civil. Music can make us human. Music can touch our hearts and our souls. And what you're doing in Cambodia is phenomenal. We need to spread it all the way around the world. So thank you so much.
Please come and visit us.
Yeah, I'll come and visit.
Evelyn, come and visit us too in Cambodia. We will dance, we will sing for you, and the new generation are doing their own works now. And we are ready to show you anybody. We're ready to smile and hug you, not through the arts, you know. Yes, please come and visit us.
We'll get Brett, and we'll have quite a quartet together. It'll be fun. So Evelyn, yes. Thank you so much. Arn, thank you so much. And again, we're going to explore this with you more, Arn. There's too much of the story to get into this short amount of time. But for all the teachers out there, you simply could not have two better role models. Again, I think sometimes we get caught in this is what we do. And when you stand back, you can see that literally music is a foundation that is the mortar that holds the bricks together. So both of you, I love you both. Thank you so much for doing this, and we'll plan to do it again. All righty.
Thank you, Evelyn.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Arn.
Good night. Good night.
Well, we have been blessed and fortunate to have the time with Evelyn and with Arn, and we are going to take this out with a crescendo and a double forte with Michael Torregano. Dr. Torregano has a history as a music teacher, both at all levels, university level, and he is one of the people that is responsible for the growth, the establishment of the Ellis Marsalis Center for Music. Of course, he's a musician himself, pianist, and has quite a history as a composer, as an arranger, as an author. But most of all, he's just a great human being. And as I told Brett, he will bring this all home so we can see that music really does have healing power. It really is a language unto itself. And for sure, it is something that someday we hope every child will have access to. So we're so delighted to have Michael here. Michael, tell us what's going on in your part of the country, my friend.
Hey, right now we're dealing with education with the COVID pandemic. Yeah. We're still dealing with that. You know, things changed a lot on us last March. We were rolling along and not expecting things to change, even though we were looking at the news. I remember maybe about 3 days before this shutdown, I went to my director and said, what are we going to do? You know, what's our plan? And she was like, I don't have a plan. It's like, we'll do whatever the state does. And it just slapped, I think it was like a Thursday, and it just slapped us in the face. Everything shut down, and we immediately went into what are we going to do mode. We knew we were going to have to go remote right away, and so we closed down for a week and came up with a plan. It was a rushed plan, but we gave it our best shot, and we finished out. We worked on semester basis, so we got things going, and I'll put it like this: we kind of limped to the end of that semester, and then we had a summer program that we had to start right away, and that was amazing. And it was amazing. We had over 100 kids doing an online music program during the summer, which was unheard of. And we've stayed closed the whole school year. We're still closed right now. Even this summer, we're doing our summer program right now. So that's where we're at right now with our program. Just trying to maintain, keep the education going, and we're looking forward to getting back in the center in August. I spoke to one of our instructors this morning, and he was like, I can't wait to go back. And I was like, you know what? I'm probably the last person to get tired of doing Zoom lessons, but right now I'm tired of it. I can't wait to go back either.
So you're going to bring the kids back as the new school year starts.
Right, exactly.
If you had, and this is interesting, you had 100 kids working virtually online.
Right, exactly.
Wow.
It meant we had to hire new teachers like right away. Uh-huh. We cut lessons down to half-hour lessons, half-hour individual lessons with kids. The way our program is structured, our kids, you don't just come and say, I want to play saxophone. You get your instrument, whatever your discipline is, whether it's voice, saxophone, whatever, guitar. Every kid has to take piano at our center. So they get both of those. Some of them get private lessons also. We also do a math and reading component to keep them going, academically in school. And we also started a coding program last year, which was interesting. So they're getting 4 to 5 different subjects. And so to work up a schedule, which I'm the person who works up a schedule, I had a couple of sleepless nights. But we worked it out.
When you say a coding program, what is that?
Coding is basically getting the kids started in writing programming. Programming. They're in the initial stages. So we started our director of education. He's always looking for something. He's always into technology, and so he came up with that idea about a year and a half ago. And we had Tim Cook from Apple came down and toured our facility, and he's the guy who's really into coding, and so Apple donated everything that we needed to get this program going. All the computers, iPads, all of the equipment, the spheres, the little balls, everything to get the program going. And he wants us to get this program going in the schools in our area. And so it's different from music, but it's also something that gives kids another pathway to excellence in life,
Can you explain, Michael, that at the Center for Music, the Ellis Marsalis Center for Music, what's the clientele? How do kids get in there? How do you choose who's going to be a part of it?
Okay, well, maybe I need to go back to the beginning to how we started. Certainly, it came up after Hurricane Katrina in 2005, and I wasn't in New Orleans at that time. I had just started a job in Mississippi teaching at a university, so I had just left the city like 3 weeks before the storm hit. But during that time, the aftermath, the story as I was told is Harry Connick and Branford Marsalis, who were both New Orleans natives, they were in Houston and they were driving down to take a tour of the city along with their manager. And while they were there, Harry said, we need to do something to try and impact the community. Let's try and build some houses. And I think the discussion as they were riding, let's do a music center. Let's do something to try and get music going. So out of that came what's called Musicians Village, which is located in, it's weird because it's going to sound weird because we're in downtown New Orleans, but we're actually in what's called the upper Ninth Ward. The Ninth Ward is a different, it's sort of split. Our part is right before you get to the Industrial Canal. If you cross the canal, you're in the lower Ninth Ward. The lower Ninth Ward is an area that floods a lot. I mean, you can go all the way back to Hurricane Betsy in 1965 when it flooded. So certainly with Katrina, it was an easy flood for it. But we're in the upper Ninth Ward, and it's basically an area that has been low economic. And so it's a great idea to try and help people from that community, that part of town. So they built 72 homes with Habitat for Humanity's help. And of course, the center was built a little bit after the houses were built. And in 2012, it opened. And we are basically servicing the people within that community, within the Ninth Ward area, different parts of New Orleans East, and that whole community gentility. We don't service the whole city, okay, but basically that certain segment of town, which It is a nice chunk of the city. It's a pretty historic area, and that's what we service. And we service kids from 7 up to 18 years old. And as I stated earlier, we offer all instruments. Every instrument there is, strings, piano, guitar, bass, voice. We offer it all, and everyone, like I said earlier, has to take piano. And of course, music educators would know why. A lot of kids say, "Why am I taking piano? I don't want to play piano." But, hey, be quiet and learn how to play the piano. You thank me later. You know.
Amen.
Those are our offerings to students, and we also in the beginning, when I first started, I came in about 5 or 6 months after the center opened in 2012. As I said, I was working at a university, and for that summer I didn't work. I normally would take my vacation and come home to New Orleans, and so I was asked to come in and teach for that summer. So I did that, and it was interesting for me because I hadn't worked with young kids in many years, and I'd been a high school director and then university. But I remember my teaching career started out working with small kids, and so they gave me the smallest of kids. You know, I had the 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds, and started them off as beginners, which was interesting. And as an educator, I didn't realize how much I actually missed doing that, working with small kids. And at the end of the summer, I was asked, "Hey, would you like to come on full time?" You know, and actually work the administrative part. And I jumped at the opportunity because, first of all, it was an opportunity to come back home, to come back to New Orleans, and to see a program in its infancy, and knowing, you know, that they wanted to grow, to be a part of that. That was very interesting to me. So I jumped on that opportunity. And
so you've been at this for what, 9
years?
9 years.
Yeah, next year will be year 10 for us.
How have you seen it grow during that time, Michael? Because obviously it's servicing a portion of the community that otherwise would not be able to connect to the arts, right?
Right, you're absolutely correct. When I first started, because like I said, this is just, you know, even 2012, you're still 7 years after Katrina, things were still messed up here. You know, a lot of people don't realize that. You know, 7 years, you still had housing. People didn't have anywhere to live. A lot of people that had left here didn't come back, or weren't back yet, or weren't able to come back yet. The education system was totally flip-flopped from what it was when I was teaching, because now we had switched to an all-charter school network, which was different and new, and nobody really knew how to do that. Some schools didn't offer music at that particular time. The whole music education was just, to me, it was in an uproar. When I came back and looked at things, I'm like, this is not the same thing that I remember. And I hadn't been gone that long. So things were totally different. So we were actually providing a gap. Like I said, a lot of schools didn't have music programs. So now you could come here and learn music. You can come here and learn how to play an instrument, get some relief from the regular whatever's going on in life, you know, for a few hours a day.
So how many students are you serving right now?
It varies. Right now, I tell you, this past spring, it kind of went down a little bit because a lot of parents were tired of Zoom.
Oh boy, yeah, I got it.
In our summer program, our enrollment went down, but normally we service. We do our beginners Mondays and Wednesdays, doing 66 kids a day. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 66 a day, and on a Saturday, we'll get over 100 kids on a Saturday. You know, 120 or something. It's a small center. We're very small. We're very limited with space, but we've grown. We've actually acquired 2 properties within the neighborhood, 2 homes, and we've converted them. And, you know, so that gives us some extra classroom space because our particular building is pretty small and pretty limited.
You've had to see a situation where a young person probably didn't have any chance at all, became part of the center and bloomed into something great, yes? We've
had a few that have done really well with it. most of what we have are kids that come to us as beginners. You know, we get a few that come to us that can play it, but most of our kids come to us as 7, 8-year-olds that are beginners. I remember we had one kid, in fact, she was from a family of kids. They were a great family. There was like 5 of them. And they all just really took off with music. But one in particular was a saxophone player. She got into the jazz saxophone, and she was playing classical piano. She was just really excelling. And she graduated from high school last year. And I spoke with her mother maybe a few months ago, and she was like, man, she really misses that saxophone because we loaned them the instruments and they had to turn them into us. And she was like, she really regrets turning the saxophone in. I said, well, buy her one, you know, because she was really doing really, really well. In fact, I remember, I think it was 2 years ago, it may have been the last jazz festival that we had before Katrina, was when the Marsalis family actually did a concert together where the whole family came in and played with their father, which actually turned out to be the last time, right? Yeah. Some of our students performed with them in that concert, and this particular saxophone player was up there with them. So these kids, they've experienced some great things. To get on stage with Winton and Branford and Ellis, you can't beat that.
No, I was going to ask how I could get on there. If you have to, I mean, this is such a wonderful thing, and what you're doing, I mean, it not only is heartwarming, but it's also, again, changing people's lives. Are there people that contribute to it, that, you know, they donate, they can grants? How does that work?
To be honest, the first, let's see, we've been open 9 years. I would say probably the first 6 years that we were open, we were strictly going off of donations. And we would do fundraisers. Like, we would go around the country. In fact, we'd take some of our kids to go and perform. I remember going on one trip in particular to San Francisco, and this, I don't know whose house it was, but it was a beautiful house in Frisco. And I remember meeting like Marcus Allen, former NFL player, was there, and you have all these people, and they're there to donate money to the center. We've sent kids to Chicago, Boston, New York to perform doing fundraisers. So the first 6 years was strictly off of personal donations. Now we've started getting grants. We started the grant thing, and people still donate. And one of the most interesting donations has been pianos lately. I'm talking about baby grand pianos that people call us up. We got this piano we like to give to you, so we give it to our students, and we just pay for the shipping, give it to students. So a lot of kids are acquiring, you know, really nice pianos. I'm not talking about, you know, the kind of piano I grew up on as a kid. And instrument donations of all kinds, though we always receive them, and we give it to the kids.
I think that's phenomenal. Michael, I mean, did you ever think, like, when you were going through school, your music education, university, that you would be doing anything like this?
To be honest, no. You know, as a youngster, you know, I knew I wanted to play music. I knew I wanted to be a musician. Really, by the time I was 12, I knew I wanted to play music, you know, for a lifetime as a career. But to do what I'm doing now, no, not at all. It wasn't on the radar. Even though we went, you know, my family and I, my brothers and I, we went to a little small community center where we always took lessons every Saturday morning. I didn't know what it was like to watch Saturday cartoons because we were going to lessons every Saturday. And it was so minimal. I mean, it was like $1.50 for a lesson at that time. I'm talking about 60s going into early 70s. I think when I finished taking lessons, we might have paid $3 for a lesson.
Wow.
And, you know, that was great. And now to see myself working at a community center, similar to, which actually nothing like the one I went to, but it's on a much bigger scale. It's amazing.
You mentioned that during the pandemic that you had to go out and get some other staff members, teachers, and so forth. Tell us a little bit about your faculty now. What is it like? Who you got in there?
What we do is we basically find we have a combination of instructors. We have some veteran instructors who've worked in the schools for, you know, 30, 40 years or more. We also go to the universities, and we'll get students that are music majors. They're just about ready to graduate, or they've just graduated. So we have a different combination. And before Ellis retired, I mean, before he, not retired, before he passed away, he started recommending some of the local musicians, like this really fantastic piano player down here named Oscar Rossignoli. If you haven't heard of him, you will pretty soon. Yeah. And Oscar's been started teaching jazz piano, and you should hear his students. I mean, they're playing almost as well as he is. And some of the guys that were in Ellis's band, like Aslan Parker, Gerald Watkins, he recommended them. So we brought them in to teach. So we have just a combination of, professional musicians as well as professional educators.
Most of the people who are going to be watching this, Michael, are teachers. Right. How important is the teacher to the musician or to the student or to the individual?
That is, teachers are the most important, in your development, in everyone's life. I don't care what area of life you're doing. I look back on people that taught me. It's unbelievable.
What influence did they have? How did it change your life?
Well, first of all, they give you the opportunity to learn this fantastic thing that we call music and to develop you. But aside from that, the discipline that they teach you, just life lessons that they teach each and every day, this is the way you need to do things. Even guys that weren't teachers, but like I remember when I first started playing professionally, being around older musicians who would tell you, hey, this is how you need to dress for a gig. This is what time you need to get to a gig. You need to show up at least 30 to 45 minutes early, teaching you how to be a professional. All those people that teach you something to make you a better person and make sure that you make some kind of valuable contribution to this thing that we call life. And music educators, we do that every day. It was amazing. Yesterday, I had one of our instructors actually sent me a picture of a student that I taught, 20, 30 years ago. And I know this particular teacher is in Shreveport right now. And my student went to Grambling University. So all of a sudden they called me, said, yeah, man, I'm here with the ex-student. And he's teaching at the high school here. And he's also one of the assistant band directors at Grambling University, which I didn't know. And this kid gets on the phone and he starts talking, thanking me for everything I did. Oh. Like, what did I do? Oh. It was touching. It was a very touching moment, and I get that all the time.
Well, I think the music teachers, particularly because we deal with feeling, right? We deal with emotions, that they can connect with those students in a different way, not to be disparaging about any other teacher, but they can connect in a different way. So didn't that make you feel great when you got to talk to that guy?
Yeah, definitely, because I haven't talked to him in years, so it was great. And, you get that all the time. And, I always tell them, I wasn't trying to do anything great when I was teaching. I was just trying to play music, show up for rehearsal on time, make these performances, and just try and do the right thing. But they see it totally different. Things that when you're doing it, you don't really think about what you're doing. You're just doing your job. But the impact that you have on the kid is totally different from what you think you're doing.
Yeah, when talking to teachers, it's like, I know you're getting ready for the concert. I know the fundraiser. I know you have all this. But those students are hanging on to your every word.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's unbelievable. Because I was joking with him. I said, you didn't really have to become a band director. I didn't tell you to do that. You didn't have to do that. And he's like, no, I had to do it. You put it in me to do it. So it's great, and it's very gratifying, and it's unbelievable how many kids I have that I taught that are actually teaching now on different levels. When I think about it, I'm amazed.
Well, and I would say that many of them, had their life not intersected with you, might have done something else with their time, effort, and energy. Exactly. Like that. Since this whole interview with Evelyn and with Arn and with you is about the healing power of music, would you just speak to that a little bit about music and its healing power, and particularly after Katrina and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
Right. I think that music is one thing that touches the hearts of all men and women. It is something that can make a bad day all of a sudden seem like a good day. Um, it's something that gives you hope, I think, for tomorrow. There's always some hope to be found in the words of a good song. Music definitely gives people, especially kids, because I like working with kids a lot. It gives them something to look forward to every day. You know, when they finish with school and they come to us in the afternoon, it is 3 hours of not worrying about science and math and reading. I can sit down and do something that I enjoy doing for a little while. And music just gives you pleasure. It can heal the spirit. I've seen people. I remember I had one of my brothers who had cancer, and he, you know, when he got through one of his battles, he asked me to go to the hospital with him to go and play for cancer patients one day. He played clarinet, I played piano, and watching patients come in there, and just for that 30 minutes or whatever that we played, and watching the smiles on their faces and how much they appreciated what we did, that's the healing power of music right there.
Yeah, it's a language unto itself.
Right, exactly.
You know, not to spin something bad to be good, but had it not been for Katrina, this center might not have even existed, yes?
You're probably right, because, you know, the idea probably never would have evolved. So there's always something that comes out of something bad, you know. And so this is one of those things, and hopefully we just keep it going and keep trying to touch lives and change lives every day.
Well, that's perfect, because you set me up for the next question. What are the plans for the future? Let's see, you're what, 27 years old now? So I know you. What are the plans for the future for the group?
Right now we're, well, we want to sort of, you know, certainly with the shutdown with the pandemic, we had to get away from some things. Like, we haven't done ensemble performances at all. Everything's been, which actually has been a good thing. At first I thought it was going to be bad, but with everyone getting individualized lessons, and I've spoken to a few teachers, they're like, some of these kids have made a lot more progress than they normally would have made if they're sitting in an ensemble.
Right.
And so that's actually a good thing. But we want to get back to our ensembles. We had a jazz band. You know, we actually put a big band together at one point that was performing at the Jazz and Heritage Festival. So we need to get that going again. Our string program, you know, we want to strengthen that. And it's always been my goal to one day have an orchestra. Our kids, we haven't got there yet, but that's still on the horizon. And so we're working at that. Just keep performing, just keep touching lives. We also, one thing I didn't mention, we have a music production class. I forgot to mention that, where the kids actually, some of the kids who actually excel well with keyboard skills, they're learning how to write and produce their own music, doing electronic music. And, you know, like I said, they can do the music that they want to do. You know, whatever you hear on the radio, that's what they're working on. They're also learning how to do videos for their music. So we just want to keep developing these programs, keep giving kids the opportunity to do things that they want to do, and just set them up for success, set them up for enjoyment in doing what they're doing. And we'll just keep rolling, keep trying to change lives every day.
Well, first of all, thanks for this time. That's great. Secondly, what advice do you have for all those particularly young teachers out there who they've gone through this pandemic? Some of them have started their first year in the pandemic, and you know, just the hold on part, the lock on part. What advice do you have for them as they take on their journey?
My advice for any young teacher that's starting out right now is just take it one day at a time. You know, if today was bad, tomorrow's going to be better. You know, just keep working on your plan, set your goals for yourself, and work your plan, and seek advice from other people. You know, surround yourself with good teachers. I remember when I was teaching, I had a good friend. I left a school. I left a middle school and went to a high school. Well, the guy I recommended to take the middle school was the guy I went to college with. At one point, we were calling each other every night on the phone, 2 or 3 hours, talking about our jobs.
Right.
And this was like, for like 2 years, 2 or 3 years, we would do this. We would call each other every night or several times a day, improving each other, pushing each other to improve. You know, we would go out and observe other bands and say, how do they do what they're doing? You know, And so surround yourself with good people, you know, that you can work with, because you can't do this thing alone. And one other thing, I remember there was one of the great band directors in the city of New Orleans was a guy by the name of Edwin Hampton, who was at St. Augustine High School. He's a legend in New Orleans. St. Augustine was an African-American all-Catholic school, and he broke down a lot of racial barriers with his bands, and just had an award-winning band, did Super Bowls and all of that type of stuff with his bands. And when I first started teaching, because I had been knowing him from a kid, when I first started teaching, I would go to him and say, Mr. Hamp, how do you keep teaching this song? How do you keep doing what you're doing? He would never give me an answer. He would never answer my question. How do you do what you're doing? He would never answer me. And I guess he was saying, you got to figure it out on your own. So some of it you do have to figure out on your own, but surround yourself with good people. That would be my main advice for young teachers.
I don't think we ever get too old to have a mentor.
No, not at all.
Right, because the more you know you don't know, so you got to go learn more.
You're right.
One more favor, would you let us do this again sometime so we can dig in more of your skills?
You can do it again tomorrow if you want.
You are the best.
I would love it. I would love to do it again. And, you know, I don't have all the answers, but I'd be glad to spread whatever little knowledge and wisdom I have. I don't mind helping people.
Well, I mean, that's the sign of a master teacher that always wants to give more. And that's part of what we do. I think that's maybe the mission spirit overtakes some of the other stuff sometimes. So thank you so much, Michael. And to all of you out there, we need to give a shout out to Brett Babineau, who put this incredible idea together, manifested it into reality when everybody said, oh, that'll never be done. But here we had Evelyn, we have Arn, we had Michael. I mean, what a trilogy to take home and to study time and time again. So thanks to all of you for your time. Michael, once again, thanks for your time. And to everybody, let's let the music begin. All right.
Thank
you.
Thanks a lot, Tim. All right.